Ben, hello, welcome to the roadmap.
Hey, thanks for having me, and grateful to discuss a couple of different topics.
Okay, so how are you? You're in Dubai right now. Is it still hot? Is it getting colder?
Yeah, now it's the best time, in fact. 4 days until Christmas, blue skies outside, perfect temperature, like 25, 28 throughout the day. In the evening, it's getting a bit chilly for us. It's like 22. I know for Europeans that sounds silly, but that's how we feel. Where you already might need to have a jacket or something. But it's great time.
Yeah, so it's not hot as it is in the summer. It's
No,
much.
definitely. So no. Now we're in summer, not in the hell time.
Yeah, okay. Today we're going to cover several topics. The main one is outsourcing CDOs, outsourcing companies. So before we start, can you give a little bit about yourself, about your background, and just your experience?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Croatia, but then I spent the majority of my life in Germany, Hamburg, where I did computer science studies, and I was always interested into tech since I'm a little kid. I had my back then C64, and I started programming and developing things there. And so studied in Germany, in Hamburg, and after finished my studies, I worked during the studies. I worked as a developer, where I was building websites back in the days and simple applications. Early days, I started working then with Java, and I got very interested into quality of code while I was studying, interested how code, how the lifespan of code is, especially in terms of test-driven design. And back then, we had not Jenkins, Hudson was CI server executing all the tests and everything. And then when I started my career in a consulting business as a developer, and then architect and project lead, and then also a manager, people manager at some point, and delivery manager. Throughout all these steps, the focus was always how can we build something which is easily to maintain and very flexible to adapt to the market needs. Then in 2012 or 13, I had a chance to come for a project to Abu Dhabi for the Ministry of for the Federal Printing of Germany, and where we had faced similar issues where an application was built to print passports, and then sometimes the process got stuck. And that's when I also come to visit the beautiful part of this world. I was a huge fan of Peter Scholl-Latour, a French-German journalist, was a Middle East expert, and I liked how he depicted the region. And when I came to the region, I met so many amazing people and so many professionals that I decided I want to move here. 2016, I moved here for another company where I've been the delivery manager for the Middle East. And then later on, 2018, I created my own company where I deliver with my small team successfully projects to clients.
Okay, so your experience is quite extensive. But in the last couple of years, you mentioned you started your own company. You have a role sometimes of a fractional CTO. It's not mentioned very much. So what does a fractional CTO actually do?
Yeah, I really like the word how you phrased it, because often it's just referred as CDO. I would even more refer to a tech advisor, because a CDO usually is somebody who has big responsibility in terms of staff, and then also budget, etc., right? And you do need the capacity of the role of a CTO, especially in startups or companies which are small, medium sized, depending again on their own backgrounds. So especially when you meet founders who have limited exposure to tech or tech knowledge, it is crucial to have somebody in the early stages to set the scene properly for the future, and to make also the right decisions at the right time when it comes to building your own tech product, right? So, I mean, that's obviously important, very, very important to a tech company. However, it might be also advised if you are not tech focused, but have a strong tech footprint in your deliveries.
Okay, so I mean, with your experience, you can help people that aren't familiar with technology just to set everything up and just set everything, to go to the right way. Companies often outsource CDOs or tech advisors because they need the expert help. Um, Tech advisors enable bigger efficiency and just lower the cost of the whole development process.
Yes. So the thing is, so in my past, I have had like four positions, I think, like that, where I would help startups with these technical decisions, or the technical setup of the environment, of choosing implementation partners, of defining architectures, defining the structure. So, and then what you have various type of participation models, right? So if it's a startup, you can go in for sweat equity. You can have a part-time assignment, right? So you don't need a full-blown tech advisor / CDO / IT expert to work 40 hours a week. And this is where it's crucial to have somebody who has the deep knowledge of understanding the full-scale platform, supporting the vision and the roadmap for the future, right? So here it's also important that at some point you will, first of all, you need to have the knowledge, right? So you need to set the base. You need to build your building blocks, define them, design them. You need to decide which are part of the MVP, based again on the strategy. Do we build an MVP? Do we build a full-blown product? How big is the investment? How is the cash flow, and how is the runway? And according to that, you can then again hire developers, outsource development, make decisions of technical depth. You're willing to purchase or to build on, because okay, giving the setting the funding and the runway, for instance, and the target date of an MVP, we need to compromise with having maybe a mobile application only on Android, or maybe using just Flutter to have it for both versions, but then have a single code base, which in the future might be not so good choice, because all the dependency you get from all the other frameworks, etc., or just have a web-based MVP. And then additional things comes to security, to CI/CD pipelines, where these things are properly put into production, then test coverage, etc., etc. So you will have to compromise at some point on quality, or process, or on staff, on technology choices. And these decisions should be based on good knowledge and wisely chosen, right? That you say, okay, even though it's very expensive, for instance, but we know the future of our application is very based on, logged in users, identified users. We want to have a IAM solution, which is a full-blown solution at the moment. And then we rather compromise on the user experience, or we compromise on the performance in the beginning, and then we can scale up the performance later, right? And then you make this conscious choice. Okay, this is something where it will be expensive in the future to change, but it makes sense to start with this small expensive piece and then build technical debt around it a bit, and then address this technical debt. And also the awareness of what does it mean to have technical debt, and that you really need to address it. That's also very, very important, because I've seen companies starting and then growing to a significant size where they pass a couple of series and fundings, and they acquire a good branding, and then they struggle to keep up with all the technical debt because the scalability is not there, right? And that's crucial for any startup to set the foundation right. So it's like when you build your house, and in the future you will need to have a basement, right? And then you don't build the basement, and then you can imagine how expensive it will get to build the basement after, or if you didn't isolate it properly, right? So you have an amazing, beautiful house with marble, with everything, and then it's leaking full of water because there's no isolation. And then good luck getting the isolation below the house.
Yeah, okay, so it seems from what you've said, you also need to have an ability just to transfer all of that to a startup founder, the technical part, just as you described with the house example, because software is really complex, especially nowadays. So you need to really explain to the founder why you're doing this or that.
Exactly. So this is, as you said it, I mean, the beauty of today's maturity of software building tools, building blocks, is just amazing. So I always like to describe it as, I'm a huge fan of pro code. I'm not a fan of no code or low code or whatever, because nowadays pro code is very, very easily written. So if you look any kind of language, so that's language agnostic, to expose some kind of a service or to build something useful, you don't need anymore 200, 500,000 lines of codes. You need probably 10 lines of code, a couple of annotations, and that's it. And then you have your secured web service, I don't know, providing temperature of your office or whatever, right? So, and to have that in a very efficient way, you have to have experts knowing what they're doing, and because of the entire world moving into digitalization, there's a huge demand of professionals, but there's also a huge availability of unskilled and untrained people. So, and it applies to all industries. It's like when you have a plumber who doesn't know what he does. Okay, he changes, does the piping in your wall, and after 2 years it breaks, right? And then you have a huge issue fixing that, and the cost occurring with that, the damage you're doing is the same damage you can get within the IT. So imagine you have an amazing product, which contains sensitive data, and you're running 5 years or something, or 3 years. Everything is amazing, and suddenly it's exposed by a very stupid security risk, right? So and somebody exploits that and steals all the data or something, right? And this is where you need to know or understand, okay, when do I invest in something, and which parts are not crucial of my entire house so it doesn't collapse, right?
Exactly. Okay, so as we already mentioned, software, building a software product is really complex. But together with that come problems. Some of them are, expectations versus reality. Let's say, I'm a startup founder. You might say, well, I want to have this app or software built in 2 months, but that's not realistic. It's going to take maybe 6 months. And some other problems, such as, if we speed things up, we're going to get technical debt. So what's that all about?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a real tough one, because I have seen that also in my experience when I was talking with some founders or people would approach me and then say, okay, yeah, I would like to have this app built, and then just, like I can already size it ballpark, right? So I can size it, okay, it's maybe 100K, it's maybe 250K or something. That's just the intuitive without going into requirements and doing a proper refinement and then coming up to a real number. And then you have huge deviations there. Sometimes people approach me and I would size it 250, 500K. And then they tell me, yeah, I have a company, I don't know, ADC, they offered it for 5K or 10. And then, okay, that's I mean, the ignorance on the company delivering it or they must be so, I don't know, I mean, so unknowing of what's requested. So the gap of understanding and of understanding what's the definition of done here, right? So it's not, I always say my definition of done in detail is enterprise ready. So when I'm building something or with the vision of enterprise ready future, right? But some people is just, okay, it works on my machine and it's barely doing what it needs to be done. And then it's like founders, I mean, I can imagine it's difficult to understand it that, like as founder as you have, because you can't really compare it. So it's not easy to compare because tech is perceived also as something very easy to build, or it's simple, or it's okay, it's just here 2-3 buttons. How complex can it be? But then again, what's happening in the back end and what's the total set of the application, there's things that needs to be considered. However, for a startup, it doesn't have to be always full-blown enterprise ready. So also don't get me wrong here. So I don't want to have an application with golden handles, So that's not what we're talking about. It always comes back to what I initially said. You need to figure out, okay, this is my scope. This is the MVP I want to build. So I can get rid of some UX. I can get rid of some features. Maybe you don't have an administration panel. You hack in everything in your SQL in the backend or something as a starting point, So, but you need to have on your roadmap, when do you fix or address these topics? So today I make the conscious choice to put on this technical debt. So I need to have a pair for this on my roadmap, which addresses this technical debt in the future. It can have a condition. It can say, okay, if we raise funding of X, Y, Z, then we do this. But it needs to be reflected there. And often these things are just forgotten. Okay, we do this. Okay, that's easy now. People forget them, lose them, and that's it, right? So this would never happen to a CFO, like when you go to a bank and then you get a loan and then okay, this is my payment schedule, and the payment schedule needs to come to zero at some point, right? And that's how a CFO looks at debt, not technical debt, and the real debt, right? So, and the same way you should address the technical debt.
That also might be a slippery slope. I mean, if let's say again, I'm a startup founder, and I say, okay, I'm gonna go for the cheaper option, but the cheaper option in let's say in a few weeks proves to be a more expensive option because it's not just feasible to build such a product in such short time, and then I have to find somebody else to do it. But what happens is I can't just continue pick everything up. I have to start building everything again from scratch. So that's one of the biggest problems that happens if you go for a cheaper option.
I mean, that's exactly why you need a technical advisor, because he will prevent you of making this wrong decision, because he will know we can't build an application for 5K, or we can't build an application for 20K. We might build an application maybe for 50 instead of 100, given these technical debts, which are fair in the beginning phase to turn down and to build this technical debt, right? And that's the importance where you need somebody knowing what he's doing to be part of your team. And yeah, and he will help to get the right decision, to get the right amount done. But this is also something where you need to find somebody who you trust, right? So, and you also have to have, like from a technical advisor perspective, you need to have also a board of startup people who are willing to listen to your advice, like, so this is also sometimes you will face it as an advisor that, this is the right way and you want to, educate, but some people are just not able to grasp this idea that, okay, how can it be that this guy offers me it so cheap and this guy is offering me it so expensive? Where's this gap coming from? And this gap is coming from a specification gap. So it's also of what is your, again, back to the definition of done, or what's what you have in your head. When is my work finished? And I have it with developers I've worked with. Some developers consider, okay, it's finished when I've written the last statement and it's done. So I haven't checked it in yet. I haven't tested it. I haven't factored in from the QA all the bugs that will be coming. I haven't factored in from the UAT all the bugs that will be coming in. And I haven't considered the deployment, the smoke test, the full-blown test once it's in production, right? So, and these various steps, they are always factoring in elements of their own perception of the people you're talking to, right? And the less knowledgeable these people are, the more prone they are also to the Dunning-Kruger effect, So, you will face people who are very, very confident and who lack of skill and knowledge about the topic they're talking about. And they still think, okay, I can make a big application, I can make it run, because they just don't know about all the pitfalls.
Okay. All right. So many problems, some of them are app security and just code being intellectual property. A lot of founders aren't aware of that code is something that you can own, but when they outsource a company, if they don't, let's say, sign a contract, it's the outsourced company code. So, and there, sometimes there are problems which emerge because founders don't know that fact.
Yes, that's also a good point. A couple of topics. Let's dig in a little bit into security, which I also initially just mentioned. That is quite crucial nowadays. You will build probably an application which is used by the majority of people around the world, and there will be different security layers and security role, user management. It's a huge topic in the industry. That's something you need to be studied as well and have a lot of experience just to build and set up a proper IAM solution, right? So, and of course, you don't need to start as a startup company with it. And the beauty of nowadays availability of toolings, the open source world has plenty of solutions which are based on a lot of people's work, of a lot of people's knowledge, and a lot of time. So this is also something where I say you should focus as a startup in the tech world very much on having a framework, how you make or buy decisions. So how you come to your make or buy decisions, because you should, in the majority of cases, you should build what you're an expert in. Okay. So, okay, you're, I don't know, tomorrow you're building a, I don't know, real estate agency. So your specialization is in selling houses, getting contracts done, or whatever, right? So, and that's the added value you will provide into the app. I don't know, make it super easy to do transactions, whatever, right? So it's not how to build, let's say, a IAM. It's not how to build a new framework for the UI, etc., right? So you should make the decisions. You go out, you see, okay, I want to have this on a web-based page, so I can choose of JavaScript frameworks, for instance, which are very popular. For mobile, you have these type of frameworks. In the backend, you have frameworks, etc. And here again, a technical advisor will guide you. Okay, look, in terms of the security considerations, we need to be 100% sure that we have today's standard how authentication works, right? So we have probably an OAuth server or IAM server, a open source product, probably as we are a startup. And then this tool covers all the questions you would have solutions for. What do I do if I forget a password? How do I handle roles? How do I link it with other logins? You know, like today it's very popular, login with Google, login with Facebook account, create an account with email, etc. All this is already solved. And this is where a technical advisor comes in and helps you to make the right choice. Okay, guys, let's not venture into building something. There is a out-of-the-box product. We have a free version. We have a free version with support. We have a big product version. We can choose however our setup, funding, etc. is, right? And that's the part which is crucial from a security perspective. And then if you have your topology set, then everything puts on top. Then you can secure your services, you can create users, you can create even proper role hierarchy, you know, like how people interact. Is something delegated? Do you have delegated permissions? Do you have rights and roles? Are these roles mapped to rights? Are they inherited or not? You know, and very, very complex models, which will then be needed in the future, which you can then apply. And as initially said, that's really like a study for itself, you know. So it's something very, very complex once it's on an enterprise level. But in a simple way, when you start, probably you have, I don't know, 4 or 5 roles like admin, super user, paid user, maybe, I don't know. And then they have a couple of items, you know. But once that grows, you can then easily grow when you select in the beginning the right product, because it might be that there's a product I know for sure it's free. You can take it out of the shelf and make it work for a solution for 10 people, but it will also work for a solution of 40.
Okay, so companies, they have many problems when building a software product. One of them is deciding whether to go on a fixed price project or a timeline project. But they're not aware, you know, until you explain to them the scope of the project, what is the best option.
So the difficulty here in the pre-selection of the mode is trust. So if you go into a time and material project, you need to have some kind of a trust to the person, the team, or the external company delivering what you're asking for. Because if you don't have the trust, you want some kind of a contract. Okay, this is the fixed price, what we want. And again, assigning a fixed price when you're not aware of everything which is tech related, it's also very difficult, because you won't be aware of, okay, this fixed price doesn't contain any unit tests, for instance. Or as you mentioned before, intellectual property. So whose software is it? So what, do I own the software, or am I just allowed to use the product and I don't own the source code? You know, like these type of questions arise there, and might be a big pitfall for the future as well, or for extended costs. Because when you're in a fixed price project, the mode of operation has a huge overhead. So you will need to have legal to define all the details on both sides. You will need to have proper project management. You will need to have proper change management, because for sure, 99% of what was defined in the contract is not what you want after a certain stage of the software and it's very, very common to have changes. And that also needs to be handled properly, So, and then there again, okay, how do you understand then that once you're already on the journey, so you have completed 80% of the product, and now you say, okay, I wanted a blue button, but I missed it. It needs to be red. Okay, and then the guy said, okay, but the red button, that's additional $10,000. Sorry, I mean, red is an expensive color, so we need to ship it from China. I don't know, and you can't really match. Okay, I'm giving up this feature and I'm getting that feature, and the more you're dependent on the product or the process is ongoing, the more likely is that somebody might take advantage of that and try to upsell features or functions but of course, I mean, you bought a car, you want tires? We didn't know, but in the contract you see the car, there's no tires, but we didn't know that you want the car and then tires. That's absolutely mutual. And these type of things you might face. As well, the difficulty is if you go in time and material, and hopefully then, therefore, in an agile mode, it's hard for non-tech people to understand the velocity. So is what is delivered within a sprint, is it something of a high-performance team or a low-performance team? So if the team takes 2 weeks and just delivers a hello world, how can I understand, is that really what they meant to do? And is it efficient? Do they know? How is the code quality? How is the code base? Do they use clean code? Is it easy to refactor code? Is it redundant code? Is it copied code 10 times over? Or is it proper modular? And all these items are very, very difficult from a person who has not been through his life in the pain of these type of items to understand that, right? So, and therefore, again, coming back to what you correctly said, IT projects are really high complex projects. It's like flying an airplane. So I would never like to have a taxi driver fly me from here to Dubai to Croatia. So I would really like to have a trained pilot doing so and worth the money, and it's very good invested. And even though probably 90% of the time he flies, it's autopilot and I don't know even if they meant automatically or almost, and it's very easy, But once you face a storm or something unexpected happens, then you see the quality of the pilot as well as to see the quality of an engineer. I mean, this is something which I experience heavily also here in the Middle East. Is a bit lower awareness than in Europe of quality, and how quality over a longer period is a very well invested piece of money, effort, funding, etc., right? And this is when it comes, or where I can see it's really difficult for people to make that decision correctly.
Okay, so everything really needs to be precisely defined when you're starting a project. But what many founders don't understand, they think, okay, the project is done, we have the code, we have everything's built, designed, and that's it. But that's not actually it. What happens is your app has a life cycle, and there are many elements of that: scalability, maintenance, and many others. So could you just elaborate on that, about app life cycles? Why are they important?
Absolutely. So this is also one of my favorite topics, So because if you go into a shop and you buy a suit, you don't go on and put that suit in the washing machine, right? So it needs to go to a dry cleaning facility. And there are certain amounts of maintenance related to a certain amount of code, quality, etc., etc. And in the terms of a application lifecycle, the development is the negligible part of it. So you don't, I don't want to be harsh. I'm also a developer by heart, but what was developed, it's not important. It's very, very, very unlikely that anybody of the audience knows what Amazon built on. Is it built on Java? Is it built on Python? Is it built on .NET? Was the development time a month, a year, 10 years? Nobody knows and nobody cares. What they care is that if you go onto Amazon, you click on buy, that the thing is delivered to you tomorrow, and that you have a nice history written, that you're well informed, and then if something odd happens, that you can easily fix the issue. With Amazon, it's an order. If you have your banking transaction, if something is stuck, you would like that, you can just revoke or whatever, like all these type of things come into play in operation. So the application lifecycle, or the majority, the application is in operational mode, not in the development mode. And to be this operational mode, to have a very smooth journey throughout its lifespan, that's the thing that you need to focus. And that's the thing, again, when we come into this planning and the roadmap, what I initially mentioned is that you need to address that at some point. So building some kind of technical debt, knowing what is the vision for the future, and having also a flexible architecture that makes you able to divert from your initial roadmap in the benefit of a stable platform and a stable operation, and having also a very smooth and low cost operation. So meaning if you want to add a new feature, that you don't need to plan it for a year, that it can be deployed within short amount of time, ideally instantly. It's fully tested, fully covered. The CI/CD pipeline just puts it into place. It's containerized. It's a microservice, so it can just pop up in your UI. There's a new feature. It's not destroying other elements of the UI or processes, etc., right? So this is the ideal world where you have that, and you don't need to say, okay, we need to plan a release. There's a crucial fix. We can't do it. The customers need to go through pain for the next 3 months because the application is so built that we can release only quarterly or whatever, etc., right? And you also don't want that you have to have 10 million of people of stuff to keep the operations running, right? Because it's so unstable that the cost of operating it, manpower or CPU power or infrastructure, etc., what's needed, right? So these are crucial elements of a long-term vision how a piece of software should run, and should be always considered while you're thinking.
Right. So a really simple example might be, we all have phones, and when we're updating our mobile apps, there are always feature tweaks. You have to tweak your features, solve bugs and everything else. So it might not, it's something like a never-ending story. Actually, you always have to take care about your software product. It doesn't end when it's built.
Exactly. So also, like what I mentioned initially, like when you select, for instance, as you mentioned, mobile apps, and you think about, okay, we might go for a single code base like Flutter or React Native or something, right? So where you build one code and it works for two platforms. With this decision, you inherited the huge dependency of frameworks and also legal terms from each platform, right? So because you're not native, so tomorrow Apple or Android might decide the library XYZ you're using is not supported anymore by our platform, and you have no power to make the library to upgrade to its new things or whatever. So it might be deprecated. It might be not any more well maintained. Then you need to find a solution. What do you do then? So and then it comes to this problem that suddenly you thought, okay, I had one code base. I have just to write one line of code, so it will be deployed on both platforms. And now you have a huge amount of work to replace this library, to maybe rewrite it. Maybe it's open source, you can contribute. Maybe it's not, you need to reverse engineer it, or you need to take functions out of it. I have also seen projects with so many, huge amount of libraries used, and then they use just one function of this library, one function of that, never and thought about, does it make sense to take this library into our ecosystem just because of this one function? Like, I don't know, a string beautifier. I don't know, like that might be a very, very simple thing. And then later you need to refactor and put that out, So, and again, here comes the technical debt question, like, okay, are we willing in the beginning to go for a single code-based solution and then split it later? But it should be on the roadmap and clear understanding of the dependencies. How many libraries are we depending on, et cetera, et cetera. And all of them, they need to be updated. Like, I mean, I can just remind everybody from last year's Log4j issue, which was in the Java world a huge issue where people needed to immediately update their systems, and some very monolithic build applications needed to be taken down, or the release would have been after 2-3 months, and they pose a very, very high security risk there. So this is something which comes back to the operation and the smoothness of a solid build application, which can be then deployed or upgraded within minutes.
Yeah, so always take care of your software, because it's going to take care after you. Okay, so we covered many topics today, many problems founders have when building software. What would be your closing thoughts regarding everything we discussed today?
Yeah, so my closing thoughts would be, I mean, don't over-engineer, so it's also on that side, like, I mean, it sounds maybe the risks I was showing today a bit massive. So don't be overwhelmed by that. I mean, still, as I initially said, if you have a very good trained tech team, they can build amazing things in very, very short time, So this is also something where sometimes, okay, I'm untrained and I think I need to build functional for 10 days, but in fact, you can build it in a couple of hours, when you have the expert. And it might be hourly wise more expensive, but the time he needs is way less. So I would encourage everybody to go on a journey. So this is really something, making the world a better place with the ideas. So it's with the low footprint of creating a startup, with all the cloud technology that's all around you, just need a fraction of investment to change the world. So I would encourage everybody to go for it. If you don't know some CDO in your network or whatever, I don't know. I would even go probably on LinkedIn, find a random CDO from a company and ask him, okay, I need help. He will probably answer. You might not even think about it, that even a crazy request like that, okay, I need a technical advice. How can I start my company or whatever? He might just refer you to somebody or give you an advice. So definitely go for it, and keep in mind about the part of quality, especially in complex systems, in software, in, I don't know, airspace industry. When you're shooting a rocket, you need to make everything right to reach your target. And it's hard, but it's fun, and it's rewarding when you see a complex application running like a clockwork. So this is something that the applications I have built made me really every day very happy. When I see an application I deployed 2019, it had over the time, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 deployments, and not one rollback, 100% stable, and a very, very happy client where they say, wow, it's just amazing. And that's the reward you get.
Yeah, so actually don't rush things and be really careful, because as we already mentioned, a cheaper option might be a costlier option in the end.
Exactly. There's a saying, I'm not rich enough to buy cheap.
Yeah. Okay. Ben, thank you very much. Thank you for clearing some things up. They're probably difficult to understand. And I hope to see you again on the show. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, and it was a pleasure.
See you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.